The relationship between Americans and their history has hit a rough spot. It seems young people especially are about to call it quits. This reminds me of the story of two marriages. Both of the husbands in this story had the same problem, and both wives were distraught enough to call their mothers. The first mother had been embittered by a failed marriage, so she only helped fortify and deepen the offense by bringing out all the faults in her son-in-law and forgetting all of his positive points. This resulted in numerous clashes, which included emotional outbursts and physical attacks by the wife to the husband, sometimes ending in police intervention. The second wife experienced the same issue with her husband and called her mother, but with a big difference. After describing her situation to her mother and receiving sympathy and understanding, the conversation changed. This phone call turned from the negative to the positive. The husband's strengths and good character were discussed. They reminded each other of all the kind and courageous things this man had done and the sweetness they had experienced in their marriage. They also decided that the best possible outcome would be for the husband to get over this weakness through the power of God and for the family to stabilize and become healthier through facing the truth in love. The first marriage continued to break apart, with the wife becoming more and more suspicious and neurotic, and her husband reacting with more negative behaviors. It wasn't long before there was a heart-wrenching divorce. The second marriage was not healed overnight. There was a confronting, an ultimatum, and a time when decisions had to be made. But all of this was done in the spirit of humility and hope. Through God's grace and counsel, the entire family was restored. Years later, this couple is still going strong, and their children were spared from the hell of divorce. Why do I share the story of these two marriages? Because we Americans are as distraught as these two wives.
Hi there, sweet mommies. This is Sherry Hayes. I'm the interesting mother of 15 interesting children, and I've been homeschooling for over 36 years, and I love to share information that will add to your life. So while I'm talking, you could do what I should be doing right now, which is cleaning up my family room where we watch movies. But I have chosen to do this podcast instead. Aren't you glad? Anyway, why are we sharing? Why am I talking about these two marriages? It's because our country is causing us all to feel distraught. All right? We have relied upon our nation for safety and prosperity, and it seems to have lost its way. Now, I'd like to illustrate this point by sharing a story of my own. My husband and I rented an apartment in downtown San Francisco in 1982, I know, long time ago, for one night. Okay, long story, but at that time, we decided that we would go out and have some dinner at an Italian restaurant and go to a movie. And we were able to walk in the dark through the streets right in the heart of downtown San Francisco without fearing for our safety. And the streets were clean, except for the occasional little piece of paper. It was really clean and tidy in that city at that time. Now, fast forward to today. We have a nephew that we were talking to, that he told us that he took his girlfriend to visit San Francisco, and they stayed in a hotel on Nob Hill, which is supposed to be one of the better parts of San Francisco. And he said that he had to hold her close to him and tell her not to look down, because they couldn't go 5 feet without running into trash, all sorts of human refuse, if you get what I'm saying. And that people were shooting up with drugs right in front of them. And so it was a horrible time. And this is happening all over our country, in all our major cities. This kind of a horrible transformation that's happened in especially the last 10 or 15 years. Now, if we're not distraught, if we're not wringing our hands and wondering what has gone on, then we aren't paying attention. Okay. We are in the same position as these two wives in my story. And we have a choice to make. We have a choice of who we will listen to. On the one hand, we have counselors that will bring out the worst, right? They'll tell us the worst stories of our history, and they'll prophesy the worst in our future. On the other hand, there are those who are truthful about our foibles, but with a desire towards restoration and remembering the best of our past and striving towards the original vision of our founders. And it was a good vision, all right? Now, listening to the first counselors, like the first marriage in our story, remember it was the embittered mother-in-law? Okay, will only lead to increased violence and destruction. Just like in the first marriage, the more the wife and the mother-in-law concentrated on the faults and the foibles of that husband, the more that the offenses were built up, right? When a person or a population becomes offended, then everything done by the offending party becomes negative. Everything they do. Even kindnesses are reinterpreted to be threats. And when you listen to some of the negative voices in our time, even the good things that we find in America are being portrayed as evil. All right? There is no way out from this mindset except total destruction and dissolution. And I think that's the point of our detractors. I think they're trying to foment us against our own country. Now, when we listen to the second counselors, however, we will be led in a very different direction. Things may not be pleasant at first. We may need to dig in and do some deep cleaning. But with the help of God, we can glean the best from our past and move forward to a brighter hope for the future. Now, if we are willing to make good decisions and believe for the best, we can rebuild the foundations and live in a better country than ever before. So, let's be honest about our past. That's the first thing we have to do. While there is a lot that's embarrassing, a lot that's shameful even, there is so much more that is uplifting and positive. See, that's, I know when I said let's be honest about our past, I know we're always thinking the negative. That's how we've been trained to think. Well, if you're going to be honest, you have to be negative. No, you can be positive. That's part of being honest too, right? Okay, anyway, let's immerse ourselves. Let's study and discover just how unique our country is. Just what a bright light our nation was at its start compared to all the nations on the earth at that time. It was amazing the difference that our country has made. Okay? Let's immerse ourselves into the virtues of our founders, not discounting their faults, but highlighting their character by bringing out their sacrifices and their successes in their own words, by the way, which is amazing. By the way, a lot of the negative reports we have been fed via media and curriculum are either exaggerated or false, but because they are made to fit a narrative to destroy us from within. This is actually a tactic that enemies use to want to conquer someone. I'm just telling you, it's an open understanding. Let's allow our children to have some heroes. Let's not allow that their dreams of altruism have to be squashed under the gall of the bitterness of the disappointed. Let's reclaim U.S. history. Now, the first step in this process would be to educate ourselves as women, as mothers, as parents, as mothers and fathers. Now, here are some resources that help to do that. The first I would suggest is the 1776 Commission. Now, that is a printable PDF that you can get off of the site whitehouse.org. Okay, and I printed it out like about 3 or 4 years ago, but you can now, it's back on there. It was taken off for a while, it's back on there, and you can access that for free. Okay. Then there is The Light and the Glory and From Sea to Shining Sea that was written a number of years ago. But I own these books, and some of the information in these books are like recovered journals of Columbus that they didn't have beforehand, and they didn't realize his actual intentions and his repentance and all kinds of stuff are in these journals. And that will change your mind about Columbus. I'm just saying. All right. And there's lots of other stuff included in there. Okay. Wall Builders. And that's a site online, and they publish things, and they have YouTube videos you can watch, and they're just an amazing organization. They gather actual historical materials that highlight the Christian principles of our founding fathers, and they discuss them, and they see them from a different light. And these gentlemen are actually very pro African American and pro Native American. So I think that you would enjoy listening to some of their stuff and maybe purchasing some of their books. It's just really, really fascinating. Okay, William Federer, all right, is a gentleman who I love to listen to him. You can find him all over YouTube. You can watch one of his his dissertations, I guess you would call them, about American history and about history in general. He's just a fascinating person to listen to. Every talk he does is so chock full of information. You will be spending many hours looking up all the references, but it's really, really important to watch at least one of his dissertations. Okay. Now, the second step, now that's only some of the resources that I know of. I know there are many others, and if you would like to suggest some others in the comments below, that would be greatly helpful. Okay, now the second step is to educate our children. Now, the culture is going overboard and over time, trying to convince us our country is trashed. Let's go overboard in reminding our children of just how much grace God has had on us. We can do this through all the mind gates, books, videos, songs, experiences, and on and on. Okay? Just the folk songs of our country are a lot of fun. Anyway, having a national identity and appreciating national strengths is not sinful. All right? It's not sinful in and of itself. Now, it only begins to go crazy when we start worshiping that identity as a nation and replacing God with it, right? When we replace our worship of God with our identity as a nation, then we get ourselves into trouble. But then it's just warped and perverted, just, like it always, like anything that we put as an idol in our lives always warps and perverts everything, doesn't it? So it's okay to be happy with the country that you live in. If you're Polish, to be happy to be a Polish person. If you are Argentinian, say, I love my country, and go into the good parts of your country. That's good. That's a wonderful thing to do. It doesn't really matter what country you're part of. It's okay to have a national identity. That's not a negative thing. It's not ungodly. All right. Now, let's see. Of course, there's always that tendency to tyranny in all countries, right? That's that song, that old 80s song, everybody wants to rule the world. But anyway, and that's one of the themes for William Federer. It's really funny. Anyway. Now, when we lose our national identity, we fall prey to tyrants who aren't happy with one country. They really do want to rule the world. And the easiest way to rule the world is to have everyone lay down their arms voluntarily, isn't it? Now, the big buzz going around is that we don't want to become fascists like the Nazis, right? So we've become afraid of being proud of our country and our culture, and that's sad. But who created nations and national identities in the first place? It was God. He created such things at the Tower of Babel, at the dispersing of the population for its own good. So if it was his idea, let's not try to recreate the wheel and fall prey to globalistic ideals that would cause us to lose our identity in God. Anyway, that's my point. I think you get it. And I would like to announce that I am going to Substack for the blogging portion of my ministry here on the internet. I have a website, and I self-host a WordPress website, and it's not bad. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on there, but I think I can move that stuff to Substack, and that will keep me from having to be so techie minded, because I have trouble keeping up all the maintenance on the website. And then I haven't been able to do an email. I haven't sent an email to my subscribers on my website for a long time, because I was using the free MailChimp, and you can only go up to 2,000 subscribers. Well, I hit beyond that point, and then they want to charge you like $45 a month for the service, and I just couldn't do it, so I had to stop sending emails. Well, through Substack, I can send out emails, and right now everything on my presence on Substack is all free, non-subscription. I'm looking at a way that people can pledge money, or can, I don't know, to make donations, I guess. So that just to help support the program of Substack, the platform, because it's all user supported. They don't have any advertising, so they don't have to do the algorithm mess. So I'm starting to actually write things that I really care about, instead of just worrying about an algorithm, right? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but writing for an algorithm really pigeonholes you, and you get stuck only on one subject, and you can't move around, because then the algorithm won't like you, and it's just really, it's like being a hamster on a wheel. It's really hard. So I figure if I go to Substack, I can just start sharing my heart again, like in the old days when blogging started. And that way I can get more good content, more ministering content to my readers. Now, I love my place on YouTube, and I love sharing about homeschooling on here, but if I move away from homeschooling in any degree, then YouTube won't show my videos to anyone. It's only when I stick on homeschooling for some reason, then they show my videos to everyone, and it gets replicated more and more and more. So I'm kind of stuck on homeschooling here. I hope you don't mind. But what I'd like to do is use Substack then to talk more about mothering concerns and answer questions. I remember when I had 4 children and I saw a mother with 8, and I just wanted to sit with her and just pick her brain and ask her a million questions. But, I didn't want to act desperate. Like, please help me, please tell me. Weird. So anyway, so I really want to be able to be more available to answer direct questions just about mothering issues, and I want to make myself, so I think Substack might be a place where I can do that more. So I'll share my handle below in my web address, and you can come check it out. Okay? Anyway, so next time, I don't know what I'll be talking about. I'm open to suggestions. Let me know what you think, and have a wonderful day in Jesus. Bye-bye.